predicts long-term visual outcomes.
Thank you, Larry. I'd like to thank the organizers for the privilege of presenting today. We're going to talk to you this morning about RPE detachments and AMD, and introduce the term injection index, which may predict long-term visual outcomes. Last year at the Academy, I had the honor of debating our moderator, Carolyn Baumel, looking at continuous versus discontinuous treatment for AMD. I lost that debate. I had the continuous treatment with superior side, but I did move the argument a little bit, the audience a little bit in the vote, and I thought maybe it would be interesting to take a look at our own patients, and that's where this work comes from. My disclosures are here. I'd like to recognize some of the co-authors, including Wayne Wei and Andrea O, as well as Hamid Hosseini, Gadi Howell, and Anand Lowenstein. The key points from this lecture are that the largest PED-AMD cohort with the longest follow-up will be reported today. Annual injection index equals the number of injections per year. The cumulative injection index is the number of injections per year over time. Statistical analysis of the data from these large retrospective cohorts suggests clinically significant findings. Specifically, a high cumulative injection index may yield improved visual outcomes at 4 and 5 years in patients with PED-AMD. Patients may gain an additional 0.5 ETDRS letters per injection per year. So anti-VEGF has been transformative in the treatment paradigm for AMD. Most patients, however, lose vision after a period of relatively regular treatment. There's an under-treatment paradox, and this is what we debated last year. Decreased treatment frequency and duration, fewer injections over time are attributed to all sorts of things. You see them listed here: treatment burden, non-compliance, treatment strategies, socioeconomic issues, anatomical and functional disease progression. The hypothesis we looked at is whether or not a simplified quantification of treatment frequency, injection index defined as the number of anti-VEGF injections per year from the time of presentation, whether or not that provides a useful means of evaluating real-world evidence, irrespective of treatment strategy, anti-VEGF agent, or other confounding variables. If validated, this may become a useful means of discussing and investigating treatment regimens across all diseases with anti-VEGF suppression or VEGF suppression. So we decided to look at the highest bar, and that is the toughest cases, RPE detachment in neovascular AMD, traditionally thought to have the worst prognosis, typically excluded from major prospective trials given the poor prognosis, difficult to treat, resistant to anti-VEGF, unsatisfactory anatomic response, RPE tears, atrophy, post-treatment, disciform scar formation, etc. This is a picture from Alan Berg, which John Robleski dug up for me, and I believe it's the picture that Alan used to convince Don Gass that RPE tears existed. I remember the debate well. We have our own RPE tear guru at UCLA, and he's actually, David has put out probably the best review in the literature, looking at how underappreciated these patients are. His review suggests that greater than 60% of eyes treated with AMD may have RPE detachments. That may be a little high in our analyses, but it's there. That paper looks at post hoc, retrospective, prospective trials, but they all have low numbers and they all have about 2-year follow-ups. And there's no agreement on treatment regimen, agent, ideal anatomic outcomes as they relate to vision. And importantly, that paper points to treatment goals for patients presenting with PED should focus on visual acuity, and that's what we've tried to do. So we looked at 256 eyes combined UCLA and Tel Aviv, vision outcomes by injection per year, injection index, anti-VEGF agnostic, baseline anatomy demographics were balanced primarily, and interestingly and excitingly, we were able to access the IRIS registry and look at an additional 130,000 eyes with these diagnoses to try and validate our conclusions. The inclusion criteria were PED with AMD, greater than 100 microns, at least 1 year of follow-up. Injection index cutoff in this paper was stratified at 9 or more injections as the high group and less than 9 as the low group. We excluded eyes that had tears at baseline. There were other exclusion, and the analyses I'm going to show you today exclude patients who changed groups. So here are some of the eyes that were excluded. Here are the demographics. You can see they're relatively well balanced. Importantly, the high injection index group had actually a higher mean PED height at 327 versus 280, which was statistically different. And the treatment naive number was statistically different. So both of these sort of shade the outcome against the high index group, injection index group doing better. Nonetheless, when we look at vision by injection index of 9 over 5-year follow-up, with relatively good numbers here, you see these relatively good large numbers over time, statistically significant difference in letters at 5 years. And we performed a linear regression looking at the change in vision over time and found a slope of 0.5, which suggests a 0.5 ETDRS letter per injection gain per year. A 0.5 letter per injection gain per year in eyes with PED AMD. So for example, if an eye receives 6 more injections per year, that's 3 letters per year over 5 years, that could explain a 15-letter increase, suggesting 15 more letters in patients treated with 12 injections versus 6 injections over 5 years. Here are some sample cases. The way these are listed is you see the vision and presentation next to the injection index for that year, and you can see in this patient all sorts of anatomic changes, but the vision basically stays the same in 2030. That's a long follow-up for a PED eye. Surprisingly good vision with a lot of injections. Same thing here. Good vision, high injection index, interesting anatomic changes. We could argue about them for a long time, but the vision basically doesn't change. Here's another case. This one's interesting because there's a good anatomic response, and you'll see on the further column, 2015, the injection index drops to 7, and by 2018, the vision has dropped. And so it's just an interesting way of looking at it, and we are hypothesizing that injection index might be an interesting way to talk about it. The rates of complications were low. There were almost 10,000 injections. There was 1 endophthalmitis. There were no new tears in this cohort. Of course, we excluded tears at the beginning. Now here's the exciting part to me. The IRIS database is so powerful, we were able to find 130,000 eyes. And the data basically corroborates a 10 ETDRS letter or 2-line difference with statistical significance and multiple time points beyond the reported follow-up for these types of eyes. So the key points, again, largest PED AMD sample reported to date, the longest follow-up. We're introducing the annual injection index, that is the number of injections per year, and the cumulative injection index, that's the number of injections per year over time. Statistical analysis of these data suggests clinically significant findings. High cumulative injection index may yield improved visual outcomes at 4 and 5 years in patients with PED AMD, and patients may gain an additional 0.5 letters per injection per year. Thank you for your attention.